What's going on? I'm Guns for Hire and welcome to Game Flash News. Yes, we're talking about video games, it's news, and here we are. Let's get into it. First off, as to the other news flash that I did for today, I apologize for any background noise, but it's Thanksgiving weekend this weekend, so the kids and everyone else are home, so it's gonna be noisy, and I'm like, I'm not gonna make it quiet on the set. We need to be, I need silence, it has to be perfectly, nah, I'm in the house, they're right above me. It happens. Now, as many of you may know, and if you don't, well, I'm letting you know that I am getting into Battlefield 4. I've been playing the beta. I think I have close to 40 hours played on the beta so far, which maybe for some of you is like nothing. You're like, I have 80 already. You know, working on other stuff, I can't just play one game all the time. I am actually playing other stuff and looking into it and creating stuff, but I'm like, wow, how did I rack up 40 hours already on this? I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm playing Battlefield 4 beta on PC, getting used to the controls, and I will be going forward as I've been tweeting. If you're not following me on Twitter, that link is in the description below as well, where you can ask me anything. I'm on there. I look at Twitter and I'm reading Twitter basically every minute of that I'm conscious. The second I wake up in the morning, honestly, it's right beside my bed. The first thing I do before I even get out is I look at Twitter. So, you know what, if you want to ask me something, if you've got something, a suggestion, then go on there and follow me there. Anyway, so we want to get into Battlefield. I'm enjoying it a lot, and I'm looking at getting into strategies again. And on that note, there's an article, and of course that link to the article is in the description below if you want to read it yourself, but DICE is looking, maybe DICE/EA, who knows, I mean the publisher and developer, it's usually a collaboration. I think mainly pushed by the publishers, but they're looking at getting into competitive esports. Much like, you know, any other PC game, they want to get into it, and I know Call of Duty has been really pushing hard with that, especially with, I think since Black Ops 2, they're really, you know, like Treyarch's really been trying to get into that esports thing, really pushing it. It's kind of setting an issue there that there's a tension amongst people because it's almost like they put too much emphasis on esports rather than the general game itself. It's like, okay, all these features are there, great, but this game is based and needs to feed off the general community. You gotta make sure that you do not ignore the reason why an esport would succeed in any video game is that core audience. It's those core people that are playing it and enjoying that game. So the game must be made specifically for the general video game population, or else an esport sort of competitive league just won't work. You've got to have an audience. That audience is the general gamers. So it's kind of a fine balance as to how much emphasis you place on esports. You know, obviously to make it esport compatible, you've got to have certain game modes in there. You've got to be able to have certain features that make it so that you can do competitive gaming on it, or else it just won't work that way. But the balance has got to be there. For me personally, I found like it was too much focus on esports for Black Ops 2. Who knows what they're going to be doing with Ghost? I'm interested to see what they're going to do with Battlefield 4. So they've been talking about it, and in particular, there's two game modes that they're looking at. And we're looking at esports from a squad, basically, so 5v5. The two game modes that they mentioned, and that's not to say that there won't be other game modes included in the esports if they go forward with this, which I'm assuming they will, because I believe that even Microsoft is getting involved with this. Of course, Xbox. As soon as competitive, they're like, competitive? Someone say competitive? We'll host it, no problem. Xbox coming to you live. So they're going to be including Domination, which is basically an infantry-based conquest. No vehicles, smaller maps, and fewer flags. I say flags, but that's essentially what it is. So you have the three. If you've been playing Siege of Shanghai, you'll know that there's three, and it's like 1/2 of the map there. A little more intense, no vehicles in there, and obviously they're going to have to look at stuff like, you know, is RPGs going to be included in that? Because I know for a fact, in MLG type scenarios with Call of Duty, you know, those MLG rules, there's no explosives, there's no RPGs, there's no shotguns. I don't know what they're going to do to make the Battlefield 4 competitive, whether they're going to take that stuff out. I would hope that they would, because honestly, getting an RPG in the face, that's almost always removed. It's just, you know, for the general population, people playing, whatever. You deal with it, you get an RPG in the face, you go, that was enjoyable, thank you, I was actually quite hungry. So, Diffuse and Domination. Domination, for me, I'm not so interested. I don't really like the rush die type stuff, you know, reaction-based you know, there's obviously tactics and everything. I'm not saying that there's obviously no tactics, but there's a lot of reaction based, and me not being a spring chicken, it tends to frustrate me more than anything. But Diffuse is something that I'm very interested in because that's kind of more reminiscent of Search and Destroy, which is what I used to like and used to play primarily on Call of Duty. On top of that, I really like the idea of having 5v5. I know this doesn't seem maybe like much to you, but in competitive COD MLG, it's 4v4. It's always been 4v4. When you play, you know, and standard Search and Destroy is 6v6. Now, Battlefield is introducing Diffuse, which is, you know, a very similar game mode to Search and Destroy. You can bring them back, but it's 5v5. It's kind of like in between. Personally, I've always felt like 4 was too little, but it was done like that because with 6 players, and I'm going to be honest with you, when I actually played, you know, way back in the day when I was co-owning NGT and I had the team when we did game battles, our NGT Elite, we had 6v6. Honestly, with our strategies with 6 players, it was almost too easy to lock down areas. Like for defensive purposes. You have 6 people that are coordinating and know exactly what they're doing. It's very difficult for the offense to actually make their move and come in. And that's what I focused on. I almost exclusively focused on defensive strategies for Search and Destroy. Mainly because with 6 players, you can lock down most of those maps. Most of the you know, the entrances or the way that people are coming in. It was very, very easy to lock them down. So when you had 4 people, it made it much more difficult. There was way too many pathways, there's no way that you could lock it down, and it's done on purpose so that the action stays high. With Battlefield 4, with Diffuse, they're looking at 5. It's kind of the in-between. Not quite, you know, loopholes everywhere, but not at the extreme of playing 6-player Search and Destroy where you could just lock things down. I'm very interested to see how that works. I'm very excited because for me, Search and Destroy has always been my absolute #1 favorite game mode. And now I've got some sort of hybrid. I can play clan, you know, the clan wars or whatever on Call of Duty Ghosts if I choose 4v4 there, playing against cross-platforms. I can play standard Search if I want, 6v6, even do game battles or whatever if I wanted to based on that selection. Or now with Battlefield, a different, you know, a whole different set of weapons, the feel of it. And having 5 players, I think it's a very interesting concept and I'm very excited. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about this new Diffuse thing? I know it hasn't been out, we don't see a lot about it, you know, videos and stuff like that, but how do you feel about a Search and Destroy with 5 players and making it competitive? Is it something that you would be interested in? Interested in watching if you're not good enough? Or interested in playing and think that the dynamics would be better? Not quite as easy as 6-player to lock down on defense anyway, or... You know, I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm actually very interested. I don't know if I'm excited because I don't really know how it plays, but I am excited to try and play it and see what happens. I'm just very curious. Curious like a cat.